It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
It's cool, overcast, and a little bit wet outside. Fall season officially here.
Love it, man. Loving the cool weather.
And the cool weather means cup of coffee right here at Slumberland at the lake. And this week we got a big show, some local headlines. Lake Aviation contract was going to be extended, not so fast.
Interesting.
Big Bass Bash winner. Always love telling you about one fish for 100 grand.
Woo.
It's a lot. That and a whole lot more after this on this week's Cup of Coffee.
Hey everybody, it's Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We're starting our mega sale this week, and we've got great deals in the mattress area. Tempur-Pedics, Purple, Stearns & Foster, all on sale. You need to come get a great night's sleep and check out the wonderful deals at Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
Competing on the field requires hard work.
It also requires effort and making good choices, which carries over off the field.
Like good choices behind the wheel of your car. Did you know that a driver is 20 times more likely to be in a serious accident if texting and driving?
Last year alone, 104 people were killed in Missouri from distracted driving.
So keep leading the statistics. Don't become one.
Buckle up, phones down. This Drive Safe, Boat Safe reminder brought to you by Price & Randall Injury Attorneys.
All right, before we get started with this week's local headlines, Lake TV attended a couple really cool events over the weekend, two of them on Saturday. First, COMC had their annual bubble run, which was cool. Well over 100 participants ran in that. And here's some sights and sounds courtesy of Sierra Smith and Studio T Images, but such a cool event, great participation. Love the folks over at Central Ozarks Medical Center, and man, some really cool things coming up for them that we'll be excited to tell you about. And of course, on the upcoming schedule, we'll have the Burnabys with COMC. So a lot of cool stuff with Central Ozarks Medical Center. And the one that I attended was the Fall Festival with the city of Osage Beach. Now, that was awesome.
Yeah, you guys, you and your family usually go to that one, right?
Yeah.
Have a good time every year. It's very neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. They outdid themselves this year. I think they actually ran out of parking, and they had extended parking into the soccer fields and done shuttle buses, but they had vendor booths, and they had jump houses, and they had the petting zoo. They literally had an alligator.
What?
There, yeah, Brindley pet an alligator.
No.
Maybe a crocodile. I can never tell the difference. But yes, little mini one. I feel bad for those animals, right? They have their mouth closed with a rubber band. And I'm like,
good.
not only that, but I feel like the rubber band could snap at any time, and then I become dinner.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of spooky.
Super cool event, though. And then they had the pony rides, and man, everybody was out there. The food trucks, it was a huge crowd, so really good job to the city of Osage Beach. And we got more coming later in the show with the city of Osage Beach. But our first story this week, we told you about the Brandon Wisdom case, right? Last week we told you about the prosecutor's side. She went on KRMS Morning Magazine, Tony Herman, and talked about, you know, the cases that were presented to her office and whether or not they would be able to be prosecuted. And there was some confusion. Well, we heard back from Camden County Sheriff Chris Edgar as he went on Morning Magazine on KRMS with Tony Herman. Friday, October 3rd was the day I believe they recorded, and he was with Chief Deputy Scott Hines, although these clips were played that I heard Monday, October 6th. And what was up for discussion was the chain of custody with the phone, right? A motion to suppress evidence and what exactly happened. And so Scott Hines, speaking on the radio, said that yes, the chain of custody on possession of the cell phone was not well documented, even though they kept it in a secure area of the sheriff's office and did not put that in the report. Therefore, that was the chain of custody being broken. The information that we charged him with did not come from the phone. Now, I think that's important. He said, in regards to the cell phone, I want to repeat, the chain of custody was broken. I will admit that. It was not well documented where the cell phone was put while it was in our possession. He believed that to be 10 days. This is Chief Deputy Scott Hines talking on Morning Magazine. However, I will contend that the cell phone was never out of possession in our unit, and the charges filed against Mr. Wisdom had nothing to do with anything on the cell phone. That is not the case that our detectives put forth, and we disagree with the prosecutor on this case, and we're certainly not going to give up. The official statement from Sheriff Chris Edgar was, "We are going to retry this case. We will keep pursuing justice for the victim. We want to bring justice to protect the people of Camden County. That is our office's job. And in regards to allegations that our office is not doing a good job in investigations or handling evidence or building cases, I'm confident in my department's investigation team. Our detectives are great and we're being recognized across the state for our work. And again, we will retry this case. It is our goal to bring justice to the family and to the victim." And so that is from Sheriff Chris Edgar. A little bit of disagreement. It was good to hear back from him that this case is not dead in regards to the way they view it.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping the biggest thing that comes out of all of this is just in the past, not under Sheriff Edgar necessarily, but I think under Tony Helms and maybe before Tony, Sheriff's Department came under a lot of scrutiny for things like this, you know, for dropping the ball on chain of custody. And I think this instance happened under the Tony Helms run Sheriff's Department as well, not under Chris Edgar. So hopefully one of the results out of all this is that they really will clean up all this stuff and do a lot better, stronger job of keeping, you know, the chain of custody all figured out and documented and everything. It doesn't sound like they mishandled the phone. It's just that they didn't document it well.
Right.
And so they need to clean that up moving forward.
Yeah, and not only did they not mishandle the phone, but the only thing that happened while it was in the locker was that an alarm went off, and so they opened it to turn the alarm off, which could be articulated, and that was the Sheriff's Department argument was, hey, even if it was the phone that the case was brought to the prosecutor's office on, that could be articulated, if not by a witness, by our detectives, which would not have a reasonable doubt. So they said that there were numerous ways to still prosecute this case, and at the end of the day, they're going to retry it, and they are going to work on bringing justice to this victim. And so, but again, what ultimately here is making sure that whoever is at fault or whatever went wrong, they fix, right? Because when there's dangerous, violent people committing heinous crimes, it's important that everyone knows and feels comfortable and confident that our Sheriff's Department is not only investigating and handling that, but bringing a case to our prosecutor, and that our prosecutor is doing their job, her job, to bring justice and prosecute that and lock away violent, heinous criminals or people that commit those kind of crimes. And so that's ultimately what we want to get to the bottom of. How do we move forward knowing that? Can we resolve that? Can this be used as a learning experience wherever the fault was? And at the end of the day, we still have a victim, and that's what the Sheriff's Department says is ultimately most important. They're going to continue to work to bring justice to.
And probably, you know, one of the more important parts of this too is that we both know the prosecutor and we know the sheriff. They are both very upstanding, honest people that I think really want to do the best job. So if that is the case, they will get this figured out moving forward. And so I have no doubt that will happen.
Yeah, and maybe a little more publicly than some wanted to see, but sometimes, you know, that ultimately leads to the best results and the most transparency. And it'll be interesting to follow this, but I know a lot of eyes are going to be on this and whether this case gets tried against Brandon Wisdom.
Yeah, and by the way, on this week's Community Spotlight Show on Lake TV, we have Sheriff Chris Edgar. Now, we did the interview before all this happened, so we don't get into any of this, but you do learn more about Sheriff Edgar and who he is and where he comes from and all that stuff too, if you want to watch that, if you're interested in who the sheriff is.
Which is great because it does give you an idea of who the man is and the way he wants to operate his office. So, all right, our next local headline, we've been following it, right? The city of Camdenton, the Camdenton Airport, Lake Aviation with the FBO lease agreement, and it had been proposed that the agreement in place through May of 2026 for Lake Aviation with Corey Lewerke would be extended, and that was to be voted on October 7th at the Board of Aldermen meeting. Well, it was only an ordinance made, and so Renee Kingston, Assistant City Administrator, said that it had to be introduced and have a first reading, and so that was as introduced as bill number 3107-25, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city clerk on behalf of the city of Camdenton to enter into an addendum of extension of fixed base operators lease agreement. What was interesting was the first reading was amended by title only, and the bill read by title. Eric Faze moved. It was seconded by Alderwoman Gentry and voted on as a yes by Alderman Faze, Alderwoman Gentry, and Alderman Owsley. Voted no by Alderwoman Weir, Alderman Anderson, and Alderman Newhart, which meant it was a tie of 3-3, and
Wow.
the rare occasion of a tie
Yeah.
with Board of Aldermen, that's when the mayor would cast a vote, and so Mayor McNabb cast a tie-breaking vote of no, and bill number 3107-25 was defeated.
Wow.
They moved on to the next item. And so that means that the lease agreement through May of 2026 will stand. There is an air show at Lake of the Ozarks at the Camdenton Airport in September of 2026.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how both parties handle this moving forward. I did reach out to Corey Lewerke with Lake Aviation, and he said, yes, not sure how this happened. This is what happened. And I will, it looks like, be working on training my replacement, and we'll be working on getting everything ready for the air show. So there was no animosity from Corey Lewerke and Lake Aviation in regards to, oh, we're going to make this difficult. But it was kind of surprising that as this was initially talked about and voted on and introduced initially by Alderman Eric Faze, that it was a 4-2 vote at the time. And so between that time and the October 7th Board of Aldermen meeting, figured somebody changed their mind.
Yeah.
People had deeper conversations. But when it came to the tie-breaking vote, Mayor McNabb said no. So it does look like whether it's going to be a new FBO lease agreement with another company instead of Lake Aviation, or as we know, the city of Camdenton seems very interested in taking over operation of the Camdenton Airport.
Yeah, we sat down and talked with them several weeks ago. It seemed like the city at that time anyway was really interested in taking over the running of the airport by the city because they figured there was some revenue to be made there for the city in what they were talking with us. And they were already looking at who they might hire to administrate, overseeing the airport and do all that. That's the person that Mr. Lewerke would have to probably help train in, and hopefully that would go smoothly and well and everything. This has been a really sticky wicket for the last few months. It's caused a lot of hard feelings in the city of Camdenton. Chamber of Commerce has gotten involved, airport people have gotten involved, city people, so hopefully this thing will smooth out and go okay.
Aviation people,
Yeah.
that go through
Yeah.
the Camdenton Airport have gotten involved. And I think still the question is like the difference between a private run airport with an FBO and a city run airport. There's huge differences. And so there's been some questions like, is the city prepared? Do they know that all goes into it? And City Administrator Jeff Hooker says, look, like we've been looking into this. We've done our research. We have all of our ducks in a row. And so they may have been working on this longer than any of us know. But again, it'll be interesting to watch this unfold these next few months.
Really will. Hopefully it will go smoothly. It might be as the stomach turns. It might turn into a soap opera. So we'll see.
All right, we're going to shift gears here, literally and figuratively, as we go to a new topic. One of my favorites, offshore powerboating.
Yeah.
Right, and everybody often says, like, what do you win when you're good in offshore powerboating?
Yeah.
And really nothing. Bragging rights and a big fat debt, typically, with money that you owe. That is the reality for most teams up to this point in time in offshore racing. And so until recently, when it was announced, Speedboat Magazine, that the International Hot Rod Association, IHRA, has announced a $250,000 purse for the Race World Offshore Championship Series in 2026 and a minimum of a $1 million purse for the 2026 offshore powerboating racing season.
Wow.
This marks the future of offshore racing, says Ray Lee, and we're raising the standard for professional offshore racing, added Leah Martin, who is listed as an IHRA powerboat racing executive. Of course, you'll know Martin, Lake of the Ozarks Shootout Executive Director, Lake of the Ozarks Marine Dealers Executive Director. This seems huge in regards to consistency for race organizers, promoters, media, and viewing opportunity. It's been long said that if they could ever, from all of the different races all over America, could get them all on the same page with the same promoter and the same sanctioning body and the same broadcast company on one platform, you'd get more people involved. Well, it seems to be their plan. And not only is Daryl Cuddell If you recognize that name, the owner and CEO of IHRA,
Yeah.
him and famous throttleman Steve Curtis rolled out the IHRA Durana Hybrid at the last year's shootout, 242 miles an hour. Pretty impressive. Well, they were just scratching the surface with their plans. Daryl Cuddell was quoted in the Speedboat magazine article, "This is the start of something extraordinary. We are not just racing, we're reviving a movement. Faith, family, and freedom built this sport, and we're honoring that legacy by investing back into the racers."
Wow.
They're talking about VIP accommodation and treatment for these teams, making resources readily available for them. And if you're not familiar with the International Hot Rod Association, that is a massive organization, and their new owner, who recently bought them, has massive plans, and that obviously includes the offshore boating community, and that doesn't just mean running their boat in Lake of the Ozarks shootout.
For many, many years, the International Hot Rod Association, the IHRA, it was on land racing. It was funny cars. It was, speed on land, and now they're incorporating speed on the water. So it's going to be interesting. This looks like it is taking that sport to a whole new level. I mean, this is some big stuff here.
Not only huge money being injected into, the media, the broadcast, the making sure the racers are treated well and are accommodated when they come into these race sites, but the fact that there's purses, and not just a purse where you can win actual prize money, but if you're eligible and find a way to win the $1 million, the biggest chunk of the $1 million purse for the offshore powerboating series, that could pay for your whole race season and then some, right?
Yeah,
You're no longer doing it for free. So I reached out to Leah Martin, Ray Lee, Justin Wagner, Meyer Coyle, and Tyler Miller this morning, and we'll be speaking to them over the next week. So tune into next week's Cup of Coffee, where I dig a little deeper into what this means and how this will impact, not just powerboating, but what it means for Lake of the Ozarks. And so just massive news. I wish I had that kind of resource, because I would have come up with that idea.
Yeah.
That's a really cool. Congratulations to Daryl Cuddell and IHRA, the International Hot Rod Association. I mean, the fact that their name is now tied into powerboat racing, and took them just a matter of 6 months to get this level of change and impact is wow.
Well, and he is the guy that bought that, the boat, the former Spirit of Guitar, that had the speed record, Lake of the Ozarks shootout. He's the guy that brought the boat back this year.
Correct.
And as you mentioned, went 242 miles an hour on that 3/4 mile course. He's the dude. So he's right there in the middle of all of it. He knows what he's doing there.
With Steve Curtis on sticks, of course. Hey, so talking big money, how about the Big Bass Bash? Congratulations to Phil Meyer of Arnold, Missouri. 7.37 pounds, and apparently he wasn't even sure he was going to fish.
Yeah, he says he's been fishing here at the Lake of the Ozarks for a long time. Grew up fishing with his dad here. He's an older gentleman now, and like you said, he's from Arnold, Missouri. So he doesn't get here very often anymore, he said, but he still, throws a line in the water when he does get here. He's got some friends with homes here at the Lake of the Ozarks, and he says one of his friends convinced him to join the bash. He said, a buddy of mine that I used to work with called me, asked if I wanted to fish. Meyer said, I wasn't even going to fish the tournament, but I'm retired. Thought, I'll go ahead and do that. So they arrived Thursday to test the waters out near Hahatonka, right? Saturday morning. So Meyer hooks, like you said, a 7.37 pound monster, and he knew when he caught it that he was going to win, right? He said, hey, I knew I had a winner. He said, without hesitation, he put the fish in the live well, headed to the weigh-in to make sure he got there before the fish died, or, because they got to weigh these things when it's still alive, right? And so he just put it in the live well, got over there, got it, measured and weighed and everything. He said he didn't take any pictures, but the weigh-in staff jumped in. They apparently knew he had something big going there too. They dressed him in the Big Bass Bash gear and took the pictures. And he just said, well, we got in the right spot at the right time. And really in fishing, that's what it comes down to a lot, right?
Yeah, and after he knew, he said he won, then the reality set that, man, I have a day and a half of waiting. There's still the second part of Saturday, all day Sunday. And then he kind of got nervous, and he said, I just hope nobody catches anything bigger. He did end up winning, and when the emotion calmed down, he was quoted as saying it's actually not the biggest fish that he's ever caught. in his life. And so really cool story, and congratulations on winning the Big Bass Bash. And his friend that convinced him to fish, I wonder if he'll have a little finder's fee or, you know,
He did say he was going to share it with him. So that's nice.
You're going to share the whole thing?
Yeah, I guess split it in half or something. I don't know.
We always talk about you and I doing the Big Bass Bash, right?
We'd talk the fishes out of the water into the boat. That's what we'd do.
That's awesome. All right. So, hey, I want some initial reactions from you guys out there. And as we'll talk about, Osage Beach, the city of Osage Beach, is considering a destination sports venue.
Yeah, this is really an interesting story. So on Thursday, October 16th, the Osage Beach aldermen are going to vote on whether to hire a consulting firm to help them answer that question, right? So the city's 2025 budget, this year's budget, had allocated $55,000 for a sports venue feasibility study, right? Not to build a venue, but just to study the feasibility of doing this. And after receiving 8 bids, the city is considering contracting Victus Advisors, LLC, to do the study. Victus' original bid came in at $65,000. They were talked down to $58,000 by the city. Mayor Michael Harmison also pointed out Victus has a phased approach to doing this. The city would spend $30,000 on phase 1. That process would make a recommendation, including financial models, and then if the city was on board with that, they would proceed to a phase 2, like where to do it, where the site would be, and you know, all the steps that you have to take. Apparently, the city's been considering this for a while, which I didn't know. Phase 1, this report is expected to be delivered by February of next year, February of 26. So apparently they're going to get right on the ball. My question,
should this pass?
Yeah, should this pass? My question is, what are we talking about here? What sports are we talking about?
Well, so I thought that was interesting. It didn't list any details in regards to what type of complex or sports venue, but you'll remember it was not long ago, I mean probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, that the TCLA was involved in the soccer complex proposal. And so they did list 2 goals for the sports venue. It would be to reduce dependency on summer-only tourism and grow Osage Beach's role as a regional hub for commerce, culture, and events. So you could think of a multi-purpose sports venue, maybe big tournaments inside. Who knows what this would be entailing. But it'll be interesting to see. They're going to vote on that Thursday, the 16th, which is happening like ASAP, if not already. Yeah. And so we'll keep you posted on that next week. And also, while we're talking about Osage Beach, did I hear you and the mayor talking about that Bass Pro Shops is not planning on like renovating the current space? Like they're going to completely build a new Bass Pro Shops.
Yes, I sat down and talked with Mayor Harmison, and we talked about the outlet mall and what that's going to look like and what's going on at the Oasis theme park. And you'll be able to see all of that interview on the Community Spotlight show on Lake TV in a couple of weeks. But just a couple of things that Mayor Harmison said is that Bass Pro is going to be building from scratch. Their pad will be there about a year from now. They'll have the pad down, ready to go, and then the next year they'll build the big, huge store there in the mall. That's going to be the main anchor store of the new outlet mall. In the meantime, there's a lot of smaller anchor stores coming in around it, and they might go in before the Bass Pro is done. The whole mall, according to Mayor Harmison, the way I understood it, they're not going to redo everything in there. They're going to renovate a lot of the stores that have been there and been successful over the years, refurbish, renovate those, get them, you know, back up the speed and in good shape, but not necessarily tear everything down. And they're talking about a hotel there. It's pretty exciting stuff that they've got going on. The big Bass Pro building is expected to be done, from what I understand, in 2 years.
Wow.
2 years.
I mean, there's so much going on. Of course, the amusement park, which we've been updating you, and we're going to have another update. I'm actually trying to get on site with the shipping containers to show you guys the amusement park rides and tracks. You've got the outlet mall. You've got Angler's Outpost, right? They broke ground on.
And the mayor talked about that too.
And so don't miss that Community Spotlight interview where you get to hear a little more detail on some of those things. But hey, real quick, holiday season coming up. Our good friends, the Camden County Lions Club, are launching a really cool event. It's called Stuff the Potter's House, food pantry for the holidays. And it's really cool. For every 3 non-perishable food items, canned food, something like that you donate, you'll get a raffle ticket to win a Thanksgiving feast for 10. Drop off items between October 15th, so it starts right now, through November 20th. Drop them off at Hedges Scott Millard Funeral Homes in Camdenton off Business Route 5. And listen, the meal that someone's going to win from this raffle, Chris, like Three Brothers Meat Market, The Butcher Shop, RJ's Cafe, Kenny Bakery, Jan Amos, and that's her special pie, and it is like the best. Mama Steffi's, Sweet Stuff, and Ozark Cookie Company have all donated to provide a feast for 10. Only one person's going to win it. There's no max to how many raffle tickets you can get, so if you bring them 300 canned goods, you're going to get 100 raffle tickets into this. Again, now through November 20th, bring the non-perishable food items to Hedges Scott Millard Funeral Homes as they stuff the Potter's House this holiday season. Really cool. And that's put on by the newly formed Camden County Lions Club with our buddy Jeff Hilke. So really cool. And then another event, not really event, but the CFL Community Foundation at the Lake have announced they opened the Karen Jean Ruddock Grant Round supporting horse and dog rescue efforts. The CFL is excited to announce this grant dedicated to supporting the compassionate work of horse and dog shelters, sanctuaries, and rescue facilities across the lake. Nonprofits serving Camden, Miller, and Morgan counties are invited to apply for grants ranging from $500 to $100,000.
Wow.
Funds must be used exclusively for the care and operation of horse and dog rescue programs, not for salaries, utilities, and rent. It's open through October 20th, and you can go to the Community Foundation of the Ozarks website and visit Find Grants on their website. Or for any questions, you can reach out to Don Busick. But really cool, Community Foundation of the Lake.org. So many shelters and out here at Lake of the Ozarks. Big shout out. And then another event coming up. Now, we went last year. Veterans, like there's always a Veterans Day parade's coming up. But Midwest Roofing's Veteran Day celebration in Eldon this year is on Saturday, November 8th from 10 to 2. It's right there off Cave Drive. You can't miss it. The massive American flag, right?
Absolutely.
There'll be a flag raising ceremony with the Marine Color Guard special guest speaker, delicious food and beverage trucks, coffee, live music, bounce houses, face painting, balloons. It's free, and they also got raffles and office tours and so much more. It's open to everyone, and they want to extend a special invitation to honor our veterans and all of those as they celebrate Veterans Day weekend. And Midwest Roofing, they've been around since 2008, right? They've been the #1 choice for residential and commercial roofing at Lake of the Ozarks, and they're always proud to give back, including their great Veterans Day celebration that we loved. And I'm telling you what, you can't be going to Eldon or coming through Jeff City and not like just see that flag.
It's so beautiful. They did my roof, did a fantastic job on my roof. So yeah, that ought to be fun.
Yeah, mark your calendars, November 8th. 10 to 2. All right, so weekly football roundup real quick. Osage lost at Boonville, right?
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. I watched that game. You had the call on Lake TV. Not Osage's best game, but I think coming out of that, they feel better because they think they're going to get better.
Yeah, and it's still in first place in their district, and it looks like they're going to get a first-round bye. The way it's going to shake out. Now, for the Mustangs, we've got them this Friday at home against California. They've lost a few games in a row, but they feel good going in against California. They're 0-7, and they're currently 4th place in the district with Osage, and it looks like they would get Hallsville or Southern Boone in Week 10. And then Camdenton, they lose again, this time 63-37 at Hickman, and it looks like they're going to be at Glendale, the way it's going to shake out for the first week of the playoffs. And then big shout out to Vincent Martinez, winner of this week's Best Seat in the House Slumberland Recliner Challenge. He got 11 games correct in a tough week, tied with Mary Pat Brooks, but he got the tiebreaker correct. And it looks like Alma Anderson still in first place with a 4-way tie for second, including you, my friend, and Spencer Wall. And the Chiefs, like, did you see what happened against the Lions? What's going on with the Chiefs?
I did see that. I tell you what, there was the broadcast team said something very interesting during that game. They said the Chief organization is more excited about this team than they were about last year's team when they were undefeated at this point, just because they've got so much more going for them and so fewer holes to fill. Look out for this Chiefs team. They might be dangerous.
Before we go, Patrick Mahomes is going to win the MVP this year.
Think so?
15 total touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3rd most rushing yards by a quarterback. They're getting ready to get Rice back. They're getting hot. Patrick Mahomes, look out for the Chiefs. That's going to do it for this week's Cup of Coffee. Until next week, my friends, thanks for watching.